It's that time of week again. Welcome to EVTN News. We are here an hour earlier if you're a traditionalist because, daylight savings time is modernist garbage. That's what, according to Ryan the Retrograde, and I agree. But so I'm technically here an hour earlier, but it's the same time as usual according to the modern world. Anyway, um, EVTN News, Eternal Vigano Television Network. We have a report on Vigano today. Vigano has been strongly criticized after his analysis on the war in Ukraine. Vigano released a letter Monday, March 7th. It was titled "The United States of America and the Europe," or he says, "The United States of America and the European states must not marginalize Russia, but build an alliance with it, not only to restart trade for the prosperity of all, but in lieu of the reconstruction of a Christian civilization, which will be the only one able to save the world from the transhuman medical technical globalist monster." The Archbishop said in his letter that Putin has been cornered by an aggressive NATO backed by the United States, which is seeking to escalate the conflict for its own gains. He says this is the trap for Russia just as much as Ukraine, using both to allow a globalist elite to bring its criminal plot to fruition. So, thanks for watching. Maybe maybe you won't be watching for long because maybe I don't know. We'll see what happens with this video. But yeah, that might have been I might have been said too much. But as for my own personal opinions on the subject, I don't have any because I haven't been following it because everything is basically here's the perspective. What has the mainstream media been telling you the last 2 years? Do you believe any of it? Okay, so now are you going to believe the mainstream media? I certainly don't. And so who do you believe? I don't know. And so I don't believe anyone. I think something's happening. I just have no idea what. And quite frankly, I don't think very many the people that are very close to this situation even know what's happening. So um, that's my thought. And there's been all kinds of comments, by all these people, different people, and I don't care. Like not that I don't care, but I don't know what to believe, and so I'm not going to pay attention to it. And maybe that's just the American perspective. I don't know. Call me heartless. I don't know. But Rodrigo Chile blog has launched a week-long tirade against Vigano. And I gotta say, Rodrigo Chile, I've kind of, I think it's a him. I don't know. But I think he had some good sources on the Latin Mass stuff. But then his predictions have gone kind of sour at this point. He said Pope Francis had a terminal illness. Well, I don't really see that. I think that was several months ago. And what's happened since then? Nothing. So I don't see that. And I don't know if he made any other predictions or not. But I think lately his predictions have been wrong. And I want to say, especially in regards to the Ash Wednesday crackdown, I'm not sure if Arate Chile is promoting this, but I don't know. It didn't happen. Pope Francis talked to the FSSP and apparently they're good to go. So I really don't know. Um, but don't listen to every rumor. You know, just a good idea not to, right? Okay, so anyway, there were other people that were unhappy. That some of the popular, like, I guess journalists, is that what you call them? Catholic journalists launched some tirades against Vigano. Of course, the radical left. Um, are they anything but radical? Any of those so-called journalists that are to the left are basically defenders of Francis, defenders of heterodoxy, defenders of heresy in some cases. They, of course, criticized Vigano. They said, "Ha ha, we told you." Well, guess what? Was Vigano wrong about McCarrick? Was he wrong about the association of Supich, Tobin, Worrell, McElroy? Was he wrong about that? To the people that try to discredit him. I think that's a good question. Anyway, there were people that were unhappy in other ways. So there was a guy on Twitter that said, it was said that Vigano was protected by a wealthy American businessman. Okay, I actually don't think I heard that before. Maybe I did, I don't know. Restoring the Faith, Mike from Restoring the Faith said, I made this claim in October of 2020 and received threats of violence. Restoring the Faith media makes a lot of predictions. How many of them come true? I don't know. I don't really follow them. And then Father John Stone, this is the order that Brother Martin is in, the Oblates of St. Augustine. I think that's what it is. Father John Stone said, I wrote to him a year ago for assistance to get some traditional seminarians ordained to the priesthood. This is in reference to Vigano. He wrote to Vigano. Vigano said, Vigano didn't have the decency to answer my letter. I'm not sure he is interested in providing for needs of traditional Catholics as much as being a pseudo-political mouthpiece. So this is where we're at. What's your opinion on Vigano? Let me know in the comments, and we're going to move to the next story. Sister Natalie Beckhardt, I've talked about her before. The Vatican's top bus nun, doesn't wear a habit, was asked about the obstacles to female ordination in the Catholic Church. Well, here's the obstacle, the Catholic Church. But her answer is a little bit different. She said, the vision of Pope Francis through the Synod is to get rid of a clerical church and move to a synodal church, to disconnect participation in the leadership of the church from ordination. We can say that the way now opening up is to listen to all different views. For instance, not everyone thinks ordination of women is a good path. You have some groups calling for that, but you also have some groups calling for new ministries. The question of women is a sign of the times. It is a powerful call within our societies and in the church. The church has already said we should fight against any discrimination against women, but it is a long way, not only in the church. So it sounds like she is in support of women's ordination. Not really a surprise that she has a position in the Vatican. But this is very telling, though, I think. You can see what they're saying is, well, we don't necessarily need women's ordination. Because what they're trying to do is to get rid of what she calls a clerical church, to get rid of clerics. Not necessarily get rid of them, but eliminate them from the structure of the church. So you say, okay, well, there's a rigid priest here, but it doesn't matter because we're gonna appoint a woman as a position in the Vatican dicastery. Okay, then she's gonna advance up the ranks, right? Because here's the thing: when these cardinals turn 80, they're intentionally retire. So they're forced to retire, or is it 75? I think it's 80, but I think Francis likes the retirement age of 75. So Cardinal Sarah, he recently turned 75, and Pope Francis replaced him. But I don't know. Is he going to replace a woman? See, what is it? Disconnect participation in the leadership of the church from ordination. Is anyone concerned about that? I certainly am. And, I went to a local synod meeting, and there were a lot of comments about how we need more, we need more leadership roles for women in the church. What's that going to do? Is it going to make that? Because look at what more of a leadership role in the church for women did in the last 50 years. You think it's going to make it even better the next 50 years? I don't think so. And that's not to say women don't belong in the church. Obviously not. They also said we need more married deacons. Really? What's that going to do? That's married deacons. I think was it Taylor Marshall? No, I don't know if it was someone I talked to who said married deacons are just completely useless because they're far left and they try to run the show and take all the leadership away from the priest. Yeah, it's a sign of our times. All right, going to Egypt. The president implements some positive changes for Christians. First, I did notice that he was giving like a stipend to the group of Coptic Christians who were persecuted in, was it Syria? I think it was. Also, here's a quote from him. He said, "Where there is a mosque, there must also be a church." Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said in a recent meeting with members of his government. So they're going to make an initiative where there has to be a church where there's a mosque. That's pretty cool, I think, because remember, there are a lot of Mohammedans that have taken over Egypt. And Alexandria in Egypt was once one of the holy cities of the Catholic faith. Um, there were some saints that came from there. Was Athanasius from Alexandria? I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Let me know if I'm right on that. But uh, there are several saints from the city of Alexandria in Egypt, and that would be really nice to restore that. It'd be really nice to restore Christianity to Egypt, or Egypt to Christianity. How does that work? I don't know, but that'd be nice for Egypt to be Christian, and it seems like they're taking positive steps in that direction. Moving over to Vermont. In a letter to parishioners of Holy Family Parish in Springfield, Vermont, Bishop Christopher Coyne of Burlington announced that their pastor is being removed from his position for disobedience to the virus gospel. Unjabbed priests are required to cover their faces and endure weekly testing. So this is Father Peter Williams. I've talked about him a few times, and you probably recognize the name. Here's a quote. After an extensive process and much prayer, it is with great sadness that I announce the decision to remove Father Peter Williams as pastor of Holy Family Parish for his serious disobedience and disrespect shown to the office of the bishop. Okay. I apologize for the length of time it has taken to reach this decision since Father Williams first made this matter public. I wanted to make sure that my decision was fair and that church law in this matter was followed so as not to infringe on Father Williams' canonical rights. I think he kind of did anyway. I think his canonical rights are infringed upon, and he's going to raise some money like Father Altman, I believe. Maybe not quite, but all of this having taken place, Father Williams, as of today, March 8th, 2022, can no longer serve as your pastor. In the meantime, I have invited him to stay with me at my residence in St. Joseph Cathedral Parish in Burlington so that he and I can pray, dialogue, and worship together to hopefully change the bad opinion he has of me as his bishop and to strengthen the bond of fraternity that should exist between a bishop and his priest. Wow. Would you want to live with this bishop? I'm guessing none of you would. And quite frankly, he has more people's mind to change than just Father Williams, because what I know of this bishop, he's a virus bishop, he has no interest in the Catholic faith, and that's the end of that. What a crazy offer, though. Unbelievable. I mean, really? And you promote the jab like it's your religion. Another moving to Puerto Rico, there's an antivirus bishop. On Wednesday, the Vatican announced with no explanation that Pope Francis had relieved Bishop Daniel Fernandez Torres from the pastoral care of the Diocese of Arecibo in Puerto Rico. The bishop is only 57 years old. Bishops are required to submit their resignation at 75, so he had almost 20 years left. Fernandez Torres, who led the diocese for 12 years, opposed jabs and freely signed religious exemptions. In August, when the Puerto Rican Bishops' Conference drafted a pastoral instruction on the moral importance of getting the jab, they had to begin the document saying, "We, 6 of the 7 Catholic bishops of Puerto Rico, who make up the Puerto Rican Episcopal Conference, deem it appropriate to express ourselves collegially on a matter that, while it could have been a great sign of hope for humanity, sadly has become controversial, the issue of getting jabbed against the virus." They should take the word Catholic out of that. I acknowledge they are bishops, but have they renounced the Catholic faith? I believe so. Sister Deirdre Byrne, a Roman Catholic nun who is also a physician surgeon and a retired U.S. Army colonel, is suing Washington, D.C., the city of Washington, for denying her a religious exemption to its jab mandate for healthcare workers. So remember, this was the Trump nun. But yeah, she's suing Washington, D.C. So I hope that there's a lot of people that rally around her. And I know that she wasn't able to practice her physician work because of the jab mandate, but she's a physician. Who cares? You know, like if people don't want to go to her, then don't go. Like it's not, to me, I don't get this. Like it is really about control. I mean, it's about controlling your life. It's not about health. It never was. And I don't really I try not to bring politics into religion in this, news program, but there are times whenever the politicians bring and try to impose their opinions and their beliefs on Catholics, and the bishops try to act like politicians, and that's whenever I draw the line. We're going to shift over to the banana song. Have you seen Taylor Marshall's video about the banana song? Well, apparently the confirmation kids they had a task at their retreat, their confirmation retreat, which consisted in making outfits out of old newspapers. So you're looking, okay, so I guess what I thought about this was when the priest went around asking the kids what their favorite part was, and the one kid said actually two of them said adoration. He was kind of like, oh, well, why? Like, don't you think, didn't you have fun doing these stupid activities where you make outfits out of newspapers? Like, isn't that drawing you closer to Jesus? No, it's really not. It's just stupid. And how many of these kids are actually going to stay Catholic after they turn 18? Seriously, how many of them are going to stay Catholic after their confirmation? Seriously, how many of them have already left in their minds? Maybe not the kids that went to adoration. Maybe not the kid that said his favorite part was confession. I hope they stay. I hope they become priests despite their priest, despite this awful experience. But I don't know if that's very likely to happen. And then we need to reach youth where they're at, right? We need to go on the technology and try to compete with all this other media that's going on, and we need to encourage kids to use their phones. We need to do Zoom youth group. We need to come up with cool YouTube videos to inspire the youths. How awesome is that? It's not. They're going to leave the faith. You've got to try something different. What about trying honesty? What about trying teaching the Catholic faith? Wouldn't that help? here's an interesting priest. I think this priest has some guts. Last week, a police officer interrupted Eucharistic adoration in one of Rome's churches to ensure that Italy's indoor mandate was being enforced. I'm sure it's not to assume things about the population there, but I'm sure that adoration, I'm sure it wasn't a completely full church. Anyway, the officer entered the church during exposition of the Blessed Sacrament unsolicited and without a warrant. He was in full uniform and approached individual adorers as they prayed to enforce the mandate. He then entered the sacristy and confronted the priest, who told him to leave and to have the courtesy to at least take off his hat in the church in the presence of the Blessed Sacrament. When the officer retorted that it was his uniform, the priest countered that there were no uniforms in the church. So at least the priest has some guts to stand up to this out-of-control police officer. And the nerve to come in there and not even take off your hat, embarrassing. Really embarrassing. He should be ashamed of himself. And I hope that more priests stand up to these faithless nonsense enforcers. Going over to the Nordic region. Nordic Catholic bishops issued an open letter on Wednesday expressing concern at the direction of the German Synodal Way. In the March 9th letter, they cautioned against capitulation to the zeitgeist and impoverishment of the content of our faith. I believe the zeitgeist is the spirit of the age. I think that's what they called it. Impoverishment of the content of our faith. While acknowledging the challenges facing the Catholic Church in Germany, they said that the orientation, method, and content of the synodal path of the Church in Germany fills us with worry. Throughout the world, a number of Catholics ask questions about the lifestyle and formation of priests, the role of women in the Church, the range of views on human sexuality, etc. In the legitimate search for answers of the questions of our time, we must nonetheless respect boundaries set by topics that stand for unchangeable aspects of the Church's teaching. So they're concerned. That's nice. The reason I wanted to point this out is because the German synodal path is really not popular among really very many bishops. I mean, a lot of even the ones that are pretty extreme, they're saying, well, I don't really like German synodal path. These bishops consisted of bishops from Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, and Iceland. So I don't know how many dioceses are there for each of those countries. Probably like one or two. But anyway, it's nice. It's nice to see public correction. I guess you could call it a public correction, but I did want to say that it shows that people oppose the German synodal way, including bishops. I know there are many priests who do, but bishops, and including Cardinal Brandmuller, he said, the German synodal way of the Church in Germany is on, the German synodal way of the Church in Germany, is on the wrong track that is lost in nothingness, rooted in the heresy of modernism that theologians have yet to properly address and is destined to fail, Cardinal Walter Brandmuller said. He's a dubia cardinal, 93 years old. So that's good. I think that's the same age as Pope Benedict. And what's Pope Benedict saying against the German synodal way? Nothing, because he's controlled. Everything's controlled, that Pope Benedict says. In a commentary published March 3rd on the German-speaking website cath.net, entitled Quo Vadis Germania? Germania? Where are you going, Germany? That's the title translated. The German church historian said the synodal way was making sensational demands that clearly contradict the authentic Catholic faith and the church's hierarchical sacramental constitution and her binding moral teaching. Okay, so you have a cardinal speaking out pretty strongly against the German synodal way, a 93-year-old cardinal. How many other cardinals are speaking out against this kind of stuff? Cardinal Burke has in the past. Can't think of any. I can think of very few others. Cardinal Sarah says, well, zip your lips. That's the Opus Dei for you. I think he's Opus Dei. I don't know. Going to Mexico. In a statement, Father Miguel Angel Soto Gaxiola, director of the Diocese of Culiacan Commission for Life, Family, Youth, and Laity, officially announced that the decision to deny communion to Catholic lawmakers who voted in favor of abortion is the recognition of the objectively unworthy state of a person to receive the body of Christ. Wow. Okay, so here's a priest. Well, it says the diocese is going to deny them communion. So apparently he received direction from the bishop, or at least approval from the bishop, to release this. So good on the priest, good on the bishop. In a letter addressed to Catholic politicians, Father Soto Gaxiola pointed out that today we have many people scandalized by the public betrayal of the Church's teaching on faith and morals by those legislators who call themselves Catholic. The letter concludes, answering the question, can a deputy or any person who professes to be a Catholic while openly cooperating or legislating against life receive Holy Communion? No. You cannot approach sacramental communion. Nor that person can be a godparent or companion of other people who want to receive other sacraments such as baptism. Wow. That's pretty strong. That's a pretty strong statement in Mexico. Can't you come up and share some of this kind of ideas, share these ideas with the USCCB? That'd be pretty nice, wouldn't it? If anyone in the USCCB besides Bishop Strickland kind of had this language, but sadly, I don't know. I don't think so. Moving to Cardinal Marx. He celebrated an LMNOP Mass. Cardinal Reinhard Marx celebrated a Mass marking 20 years of LMNOP worship and pastoral care in Munich, southern Germany, on Sunday. Speaking at the Mass, the Cardinal said, "I desire an inclusive church, a church that includes all who want to walk the way of Jesus." That's Catholics, and not LMNOP supporters. Lots of rainbow. There's a rainbow flag there. I saw some photos. You can see it in the link in the description. Catholic News Agency posted the photos, and you can see it there if you really want. Cardinal Marx added that a synodal church means being open, learning, and always breaking out anew in faith in the search for the possibilities of God, as well as in the question of what we have to say about sexuality and what we have to say about people's relationships. The kingdom of God is to discover that God is love in all its dimensions. This included the sexual dimension, but was not limited to it, he added. Okay, these guys make up ridiculous concepts for their disordered beliefs, disordered lifestyles. He called for a dynamic of openness that should characterize the synodal way of the Catholic Church in Germany, saying that this was what Pope Francis meant when he emphasized the value of going forward to discover what the Spirit has to say to us today. Not the Holy Spirit, just the Spirit. I'm sure it's inspired by a spirit, as I've said many times. After Mass, a non-public reception with representatives of the LMNOP community and Cardinal Marx was held. But I think this is really interesting. Cardinal Marx is an advisor on the C9. That's Pope Francis's close advisors, collaborators. And so when he says that this was what Pope Francis meant when he emphasized the value of going forward, I believe him. I think Pope Francis supports this kind of stuff. There's no reason not to. Hey, Jeanette. Okay, thanks for the comments, everyone. Vigano speaks the truth. Taylor Marshall has an important video. Okay, I didn't see Taylor Marshall's video. Has anything good come out of Germany in the last 100 years? I'm not so sure. Brandmuller is pretty good. I think Cardinal Mueller speaks with some fire sometimes. I hope he continues to speak up. It's high time that Groucho was booted out of the church. Yeah, I think so. All right, well, thank you for watching, everyone. This has been EVTN News. Until next time, we are the laity, and we will not be silent.